Record? Yes, we're recording. Okay. All right. So, welcome to the second of hopefully many more to come monthly tech talks for Pet Night. So, Pet Night, programming, electronics, and technology. That does not mean bring your pets. I mean, I guess you could, but yeah, you don't have to. So, yeah, we do have pets. We have a nice cat using my coat as a bed right now. So, all right. So, tonight's Tech Talk, and I do want to say thanks to Aaron for last week. It was awesome, or last month, sorry, about talking about the screens. If anybody still wants to see those screens, I have one here. So, and then if anybody has something they want to talk about in upcoming months, please speak up. And if anybody's online that wants to speak at one of these, please speak up as well. If you look up Malamaker on Google+, you can find me there, or Joshua Malavolti on Facebook. So, all right, so tonight's Tech Talk is surveillance cameras. Okay, so surveillance cameras, we all know and love them, especially here, because we can publicly shame people. But they do, obviously they do serve a purpose and can be used for many different things. For instance, one of the things that I've used them for, so I have twin boys, and when they were born, we used surveillance cameras actually as their camera for in the room, for in their bed. So you got a kid coming. It's a good thing to have. Actually, I found it to be even a little cheaper than buying the pre-made kits online. I went out and got like a $60 tablet, got a $50 surveillance cameras, $150, $160. I had a nice little monitoring system, but that still just didn't seem to be cheap enough for me. So, and also in lieu of eventually me getting a new house, I want to put new surveillance cameras on my house. So this was kind of part of my drive. And then also here, as we expand down to the first floor, we want to be able to get some surveillance cameras down on the first floor as well to kind of help protect us, protect people. But when you go out and look at surveillance cameras on the market, and I've been doing surveillance installs for about the last 3-4 years now, the cameras have changed drastically, like, I swear, month to month. It was like, I got into it, and it was like all this, it was right when all the equipment went really cheap, and you could buy, hundreds of cameras for like nothing, but they were still the old analog cameras, so you'd have, it's a BNC connection running on 12 volts, which is fine, but you get, you're limited to your resolutions and things like that. So eventually, quickly, the market changed and they started getting network cameras. Well, network cameras are great, but nobody's equipment really worked with each other unless you bought the same brand, and you'd have the same brand, two different models of the camera. One would work with a certain DVR, the other one wouldn't, and they claim that they should both work with that DVR. So it's really been a giant pain in the ass with kind of some of the equipment that's been coming out. So I brought in actually one of the example cameras that I have, which is this one here, TrendNet camera, where I got a DVR. I installed some surveillance cameras for some people, and I put in two different model of cameras. I put in a 2 megapixel and a 3 megapixel camera. It's 2 megapixel camera, and then bought a kind of off-brand NVR, network video recorder, and one worked, and this one didn't. So it's kind of annoying. So that kind of fueled me even more to find some of these projects. And I want you to know that everything I'm going to show you tonight, I have done zero in terms of development or anything. Literally, whoever this guy is that I found, put an image out there, a Raspbian image that literally you load on an SD card, an ISO on an SD card, pop it in your Pi with a Pi camera, and it works. As simple as that. I have gone, naturally me being nosy, I have gone out and shelled into the Pi, and I have found out that he has kind of lock things down a little bit. You can unlock things; it's easy, but he's kind of made it a very plug and play, OS built off of just the basic Raspbian build. And he's kind of even gotten kind of like an official page and everything like that, all devoted to this. So if you want to see all the links that I'm going to talk about here, go onto the River City Labs website. I put up an initial post for some general links, and then also hardware links of some hardware that I found that kind of you can build, I'm going to say equal to a $200 surveillance camera for like $50. So it's kind of neat.
Does it have to be a Pi camera?
I have not tried a USB camera. So all I've tried up to this point is a Pi camera. And these are like the Pi cameras from dropship from AliExpress China. And I say dropship as in you get it 30 days later. And you forgot that you even put in the order. So,
Those are the ones that plug into the...
Yeah, those are the ribbon cable ones. So I'll show that here in a little bit. I've got some examples of stuff up here. All right, so let's first start off with the software or the ISO. So Ronnie something put together this nice page that kind of gives you a quick download of all the capabilities of the camera, or just how, some basic stuff like how it's set up. So like literally everything from a login page to kind of the camera view, general information. And I'll take you guys through this page here in a little bit. But and then if you go down, you can download the ISOs from different locations. But it's all the same ISO. It's Raspbian with the Pi camera module and web interface all loaded in. So this actually does have a web interface that you can go into, configure it, configure your Wi-Fi on it even. You don't even have to even get into the Pi to set up the Wi-Fi. And then you can also choose from 2 different video styles. I'll go quickly into those here in a little bit. But that's pretty much it. It's really, really simple. So I'm going to so I've already pre-downloaded the ISO. I'm going to show you guys how to install any ISO onto a Raspberry Pi SD card, and it's really simple. Also posted this link up there as well of where to get this. So if you have Windows, which I do, I do not enjoy that I have to use Windows, but I do. Personally, I'd much rather use Linux. But if you have Windows, this is what I'm going to go over, Win32 Disk Imager, and I know there's other ones out there for other OSs, but this is the one that I'm going to go over. This will transfer your ISO to the SD card in the correct way, correct format, correct packet transfer. And then literally once you do this, you put this ISO on here, you can literally pop it in the Pi, power it on, and it works. So I've already loaded up my ISO. This is the drive that has the SD card. We're literally going to just write it, and it's going to say, hey, it's going to corrupt the device. If anything goes wrong, you hit yes, and it loads up the ISO. Takes a couple minutes to load the ISO. Once this is done, I'll pop this out, and I can pop it in a Pi, and it works. Not going to, because I've already done that. So over here with our helping hands, it's holding up the camera right now. I literally have, I'm going to say 5 devices. So I have a power supply. I have the SD card. I have a power supply. I have a Pi Zero. So the Pi Zero, your cheap $5 Pi Zero. I have the Pi ribbon cable to hold the camera itself, and a network adapter. So I actually got some network adapters that go to the micro USB to Ethernet. You can get these. I get them on AliExpress because they're cheaper. But you can get these on Amazon, I think for like $10 a piece. And then I also have IR lights.
Wally.
Huh?
Like Wally.
Yeah, it's like Wally's, like little eyes. So each of these IR lights actually are really nice because, like, so when it goes dark enough, these IR lights will turn on, and as long as the IR filter has been removed from the cameras, they can see at night, and it's like a black and white image. So with all this hardware, it costs about $50, $55 to get this. You can build yourself a surveillance camera pretty simply. Like literally, I put all this together in a matter of like 5 minutes. So we'll kind of continue on. So the disk imager is writing. When this is done, you can pop it out and pop it into Raspberry Pi. But for the sake of time, we're going to pretend that, oh, we popped it in the Pi and now the Pi is on. All right. So I plugged my Pi in. It's plugged into my network. I'm going to say through Ethernet. I've powered on the Pi with the Pi camera, and now I come up to this screen. I've gone into a web browser. So I want to also point out very clearly that the DVRs around the market are very non-browser friendly, depending on what you go with.
You mean the free ones?
Yeah, well, or the cheap ones, or the Chinese software firmware driven ones are very, yeah. If you want to become a part of the next botnet, just find a nice cheap DVR. So, anyways, this guy put together an awesome web interface. Like, this is actually one of the better ones I would say I've seen. So I'm going to type in the default username and password, which is admin, and then raspberry is the password. And literally, I am brought into the UI that this thing has built into it. So it gives you some basic information like your IP address, which if you're already here, you probably already know your IP address. Just some basic things like IP address assignment, things like that. Also, depending on the video format you're using, it may even show the video itself right here playing. I've got this right now configured to RTSP. So with RTSP, it doesn't show an actual video, the actual video playing right now, which I'll change that and show you guys what it does. So the other format. So with this, it's really simple, the configuration. You can change the password. You can actually control your Wi-Fi adapter through this as well. You can also say how do you want to assign the IP. If you want it to be a dynamic IP or if you want it to be a static IP. Where you want it to synchronize for time synchronization and even time zone configuration. So I mean, like, and this is all just stuff that's normally in a surveillance camera anyways. I mean, so, and then the other tab is the camera settings. So the camera settings, you can control a lot with this. So you can control the resolution, you control the format, which is one thing I'm going to go over, and then you can control all kinds of other crap, like brightness, contrast, saturation, rotation. You can rotate the image, the quality, text. You can actually do a text overlay.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's awesome. So, I mean, I haven't even gone through all these, but I mean, it shows you just how much this guy has put into this.
Does he have any PTZ controls?
No, but that's actually where I'm going to explore next with the PTZ, because the PTZ would be really easy to integrate, especially having the pins, the GPIO pins on this, and you should be able to integrate something into this. And this is just like a PHP web interface, so adding that to something like this shouldn't be terribly hard. But I haven't even explored
It's
that
all
yet.
open source.
Yeah, this is all open sourced.
I found some lenses that have a zoom built into it.
Oh, they did.
That zoom, but then it's got a motor to control it.
Oh, really? So cameras with a zoom built into it is
No, I mean
kind
the
of,
lens. Just
or the lens built. Yeah,
It fits on that standard mount.
ooh, that's awesome. Where'd you find those at? Okay, all right. Send me that link. I want to put that in this because that's actually a neat thing
They
to.
have a bunch of different lenses, and then the adapters too that you can put on the actual camera.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and then all you would need is some sort of servo to do the X, Y axis, or I guess would it be pan and tilt, the pan and tilt axis. So, but that's pretty much it. I mean, literally, this is all of it. So RTSP. So I'll start off with that. So I'm going to switch images here so you guys can see. And now I have VLC loaded up here to play. So RTSP is a protocol for streaming video, which it works pretty good. You can actually stream it through VLC. But if I play this now, and it takes a second to pull up the image, but it'll refresh the image here shortly. But this is weird. I wonder if it's I'm running too many things over Wi-Fi because I'm broadcasting too. But the image itself is actually broadcasting through VLC, and then actually with this, if you're on the video feed itself or on the live stream, you can actually see it in the corner. But this is one video format. It's RTSP is just kind of like one of the, I'm going to say it's used in broadcasting, tends to be used in broadcasting a lot of times, but it's literally just a live stream. With RTSP, what you can do, what it's ultimately you're doing, you're placing a streaming file somewhere. So in this case, the streaming file is actually being stored on the actual Pi itself, and I'm reaching out and grabbing that back. You can also, with RTSP, I can say computer broadcast or put the file on a remote RTSP server, and then Alan, you could reach out to that remote RTSP server and stream it. For instance, that's kind of what I'm doing with YouTube Live right now, where I'm literally placing this, or YouTube Live gives me access, and I am placing that file on YouTube Live, and then anybody connecting to YouTube is just streaming from that file that I'm posting. So, it's the gist of it. I don't want to go any deeper than that, but so then the other way is MJPEG, which is literally a motion JPEG video, and it's literally just a compilation of JPEG images that make up a video. You broadcast 30 frames per second, you now have a video. So the other style is MJPEG. MJPEG, I'm going to say, is probably one of the other common ones that are used. It's actually, if you use Octoprint, Octoprint's video feed is MJPEG. So MJPEG is another streamable, where you can do streamable footage, but it's actually web browser friendly. So you could actually pull this image or this video stream up in a web browser. But so, okay, so here, so now what we've done is we now have the camera running. Now, how do we pull this in somewhere? So you can do it a couple different ways. You can actually have a DVR running and record footage. If you're going to do that, you can do a couple different ways. So there's NAS is out on the market now that you can get that have built-in surveillance software. For instance, Synology. Synology's has their own surveillance, I'm going to call it NVR software, that you can record the footage on, and it has all motion detection and things like that. You record it onto your NAS. So I'm going to say, first off, Synology has really good software from that. The other one you can use that I'm familiar with is called ZoneMinder. ZoneMinder has been out on the market a long time. It's literally a server-based NVR system. I haven't tried zone minder with like a Pi or like the Pine 64 that has a little more RAM to it. I don't know what its minimum requirements are, but it's ultimately a NVR system that you can pull in your video feeds and record onto it as well. Another option you have is even using like an Android app. So I use IP Cam Pro, which allows you to pull in all different types of video formats into it. So you can even do it mobile based. So like when I was using it for kind of like baby cams, I used IP Cam Viewer on a tablet and just pulled the video streams into that. But then I also made it so that I could pull it in on my phone as well, because you can stream to multiple devices. And that's the other thing with this is I've been able to connect multiple devices to this at the same time with no problem. DVRs, the cheap ones, at least the cheap ones on the market right now, they're getting better with multi-connection, multiple connections at the same time, but it's not very good.
How much is the cheap one?
Cheap one's like $50-$60 for a DVR. So, and the NVRs I think are a little more expensive, but they're still, I'm saying, like, if you're spending $200 or less for an MVR or DVR, it's cheap. It's really cheap. So, with that, that's pretty much the gist of kind of the Raspberry Pi surveillance camera. I mean, it really is something that I just kind of stumbled upon. So here's the MJPEG actually streaming through the browser. It's really handy. So you can actually pull this video stream up through the IP address, and I forget where exactly you can, how you actually can get this, but you can actually pull this in and stream this actual video footage here. And I can actually, I think,
Scroll up a little bit more, isn't it, at the top?
yeah, that's the status screen. I'll have to do a little more research on this, but yeah, the MJPEG you can actually pull out the video stream. And the RTSP works really well from the Android devices. When you use VLC with it, VLC will run for a while, and then it kind of craps out on itself because it really doesn't do a good job actively pursuing the feed. The Android devices, or at least the IP Cam Viewer that I've used, does a really good job at continually buffering the feed pretty well. So, like, it just stopped. So, VLC did. But other than that, that's about it. Does anybody have any questions about all this? I know there's been questions asked.
How big of a memory card? What's the smallest memory card you can put in there?
So I used an 8 gig. 8 gig, that's really all you need. Because you're not recording anything locally. You have to mod it, but you can actually record things locally on the SD card. There are some plugins that you can take what he's done and expand it into actually recording. But I have not done that. So,
You need the
Security.
with Pi, right?
what do you mean security?
So I know there's, I've seen things where people have gotten Wi-Fi baby cams and people go outside and hack their kids' baby cams and watch, like how secure is this compared to?
So the baby cams are broadcasting over like 2.4 or 5.0 gigahertz. So if you can hack that feed, you can pull in, you can hack into it. This, you either have, so if you don't open it up to the public, so ultimately you don't open your ports, unless they have to be on your local network to be able to get the video feed.
If you don't open your ports, can you still access it from your mobile phone?
Only internally. Only
You have to
internally.
be on your Wi-Fi?
You would have to be on your Wi-Fi or on your Ethernet. Once you open the ports up, then you're subject to the outside world being able to hit you. So the MJPEG on this is secure. The RTSP is not. So that's just word of warning with that. the MJPEG actually does use the actual oh my gosh, he uses the actual credentials it's got set up. But the RTSP could actually have credentials put into it, but I don't think he's taken it that far yet.
If it's wired, then they've got to be on your wired network to see it, unless you open ports up to the internet.
Yeah.
And if it's wireless, whatever security you're using,
Yeah.
the wireless network is going to be secure.
Yep.
Baby cameras, they just broadcast clear.
Yeah. I mean, baby cameras typically you're only going to use locally. Now, I did open up publicly, and that was actually a good thing because I actually caught some not so good things happening with my kids falling off of couches under a babysitter's care. So,
So if you use the Synology, right, and you record it there, is there a way to access your files?
yes.
Basically,
Yeah, they have a web interface. Yeah, so if you use Synology, it has a web interface that you can access. That would you'd be able to view all your footage from. So typically how you do it is the cameras are local, the DVR is public, and the DVR is better to be public because it has better access control. So you do local for your cameras into the DVR, and then the DVR ultimately does it's the face of your camera system.
The DVR wouldn't, like, that would be live, it would be...
You'd be able to view it live.
Oh,
Yeah,
would they?
yeah, you'd be able to. Yeah, so like NVRs are live and record. So like you can program NVRs to do like motion activated recording, time recording, alarm based recording that like you maybe have a motion sensor or a door switch or something like that triggers recording. Yeah, you can have an NVR do things like that. For an NVR, we can get a cheap one for no. Like they actually the NVRs you can get a decent like 8 to 16 channel one for like a couple $100 or less, and they're not bad. Then I talk as really the DVRs are the cheap ones. The NVRs really are the technology has gone a lot farther with it. It's kind of like they're not putting any more focus into the DVRs anymore, the cheap DVRs, so they're not taking it out of the like Windows Internet Explorer 9. Like it really kind of is like, so if you run it, it always seems to run in like compatibility mode because you have to run it like in IE9 for the DVRs. But the DVRs are for the old style, like analog video feeds. So
Where does this guy live that wrote this?
I don't know.
Russia or China?
I don't know. I want to shake his hand though.
North Korea?
Yeah.
No, I'm just...
No, I want to shake his hand though because it made doing. I went from like doing a lot of configuration to a Pi to, oh wait, this guy has it all set up for me. Loaded on an SD and
As long as you didn't write it back door.
yeah, right, yeah,
It's open source. So you can look. When you sent me the links to this, I had one of them running.
Yeah, I would
10
imagine
minutes.
Yeah.
somebody's looked at it, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. There's the more more people that talk about it, spread the word, the more it'll get looked at too. So and hopefully the more it'll get developed as well. I mean, I'd like to take the RTSP and actually add in some credentials. I've actually been looking at it, and it should be fairly simple to add something like that to it and add it to the UI so you can actually store your or use your credentials that you set up for your RTSP feed and multi-user access.
You only wrote the UI though, right? All the other stuff is just open source software.
Yeah.
Like the-
Yeah, it's all publicly available packages. He just slapped a nice front end on it and locked down the UI or locked down the OS so you can't really modify it. So, but you can unlock it. It's easy enough. It's just he did it so that it was like, it's a solid OS. That's how a lot of companies that do this stuff is they'll lock it down so that you just can't go in and accidentally screw something up. So, cool.
Did you say you tried it with ZoneMinder or you did?
I haven't tried it with ZoneMinder, but there's nothing to say it wouldn't work with ZoneMinder. it should work. So, yeah, the idea is that eventually here we use stuff like this for like broadcasting and things like that. So like having that camera there, but mounted up on the ceiling. Another thing in my plan is with this is to actually make a 3D printable enclosure for it, so that we can, have enclosures, and that'd be cool to, I think, put online and add into this project as well. Even though all the software stuff's been done, we can kind of add into the hardware piece.
Talk about the adapter, the PoE adapter.
Oh, so this, I guess the one last piece of this is the PoE adapter. So PoE, for anybody that doesn't know, is power over Ethernet. So it takes a 48 volt DC, it's DC, right? 48 volt DC power and transmits it over Ethernet lines. So you have, technically, even though there's 8 wires, not all of them are used. So it takes 2 of those wires and transmits power over those 2 wires. And so what I did with this, and in some of the hardware that I posted, links that I posted, is it runs 48 volts over that wire, and then it gets to a terminating adapter. You plug the Ethernet in, and it breaks the internet. The internet network side of the Ethernet off into another Ethernet plug-in, and then the other side, this neat little adapter adapts into 5 volts USB micro plug that you can plug right into the Raspberry Pi Zero. So you actually have your power plug right there. And now you're running a single cable to power the whole thing. So even like the cameras that are out on the market now, so like this is about a $120 camera. This even has PoE. So this actually allows for PoE, or it has a separate power supply that you can plug into as well. So yeah, power over Ethernet is very cool, very nice. That's actually how most of the new NVRs are working. If you do wired, it's over PoE.
So if you don't have a PoE output, you can just make your own injector.
Yeah. Or you can go buy them.
5 volts right away.
Yeah, you can go buy them for next to nothing too on Amazon. I think you can get them
The injector.
the injectors for $10 maybe. So
Like I said, it doesn't have to be 40.
I may have a bunch of piles of switches that come there.
yeah, Alan's been our supply of PoE switches here at the space. So we're gonna have enough PoE power downstairs to go around.
I still don't completely understand the PoE because I put some of those TrendNet cameras in my son's house that had a PoE hub. But then he had the Ubiquiti routers,
Oh, I love
and
those.
their PoE used 24 volt.
They're different
passive.
It's
But
yeah.
It's completely different
Yeah.
standard. So
Yeah,
I
it's
put the
different.
injectors in that. I couldn't use the PoE output.
Well, and the Ubiquiti ones should have come with their own
injector.
their own injectors.
The
Yeah.
Pro ones are regular.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, they are?
The cheap ones.
Yeah, the other kind of more entry level ones have their own.
Yeah. Their own
So,
injectors.
but they called it was confusing because they called it passive PoE. And
It's not compatible with.
right.
Yeah. Thanks to Helping Hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, question for you. I know someone who recently, they own a store and they had someone break in and they have security cameras. He wasn't sure if they were 720p or 1080p, but he showed me the video and he supposedly got good cameras and you still couldn't see crap on it.
It's because most of the cameras are less than a megapixel. So like they rate the video in the older, more analog cameras in TV lines. TVL is and you still can only get so good of a resolution over the cameras with analog cameras. Now the new digital cameras actually are pretty good. And depending on also too when they broke in, if they break in at night and you don't have adequate IR coverage.
So they broke in at night, but they had a huge spotlight that lit up the entire entranceway, and the camera was up here. The entranceway was down.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they overloaded the video is what they did. They overloaded it with light. So then what it did is it turned off night vision, and then it was lighting the people up from behind. So what happens is it then blacks out the face.
Okay. So then, how many megapixels do you think you need on a camera to be able to blow something up and get
a decent idea, assuming you have right lighting and everything.
So the like
To be able to tell who it is.
the 3 megapixels are pretty good. The 1 point, what is it, like 1.3 ones? They're all right. The 3 megapixels are all right. The really to get decent footage you can zoom in on and things like that, 5 megapixel is going to be your best. I mean, 5 megapixel or greater, you're going to be good. But to get a 5 megapixel out of the box camera, you're going to spend some money. Because right now, like the standard for consumer grade, I'm going to say consumerish grade cameras are like 3 megapixels the standard right now of like what's, I say decent price, but it's $120 for a camera.
But I mean, they're older cell phones that have better cameras than that. It's
Yeah, it's, you got to think niche market.
Okay. So then, could you use this whole setup with an older cell phone camera that has a higher megapixel camera?
No, you just use it on software.
Well, here's the thing. Why don't you just like this?
Because I have old cell phones sitting at home that I'm not using for anything.
Well, you could. I mean, you could turn it into a.
Yeah, but they're not going to be infrared. They're going to have.
How many
Yeah.
megapixels? No, they're pretty good.
This one here is 5
They don't have
megapixel
to
right
go
here.
ahead, but you can put
Is that the day camera or is that the night?
This is the night one.
So it has the infrared filter removed.
Yeah, all these have the IR filter removed. So I mean here.
Because I have some that are. I've got a phone at home that's got a 10 megapixel camera on it, a cell phone.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but it's not made for night vision. I can tell you that right now. So at night, it's gonna suck.
Unless I light it adequately with like floodlights.
Well, yeah. Then at that point, you're just going, look here. There's a camera.
Well, I mean, but you know, you set it up by the light, and I don't know. It is what it is. I'm just asking how this platform works with like if you didn't want to go out and buy a camera and you wanted to try to use a cell phone or.
There's no real using a cell phone as a surveillance camera isn't going to work very well. I can tell you that right now. I mean, you could probably jailbreak the phone, load a Linux OS, and maybe get it to work that way. That I'm not going to say that's not possible, but you may also run into hardware compatibility issues then at that point. So you run into other things you may not, that may hold you back as well. That's why I said like something like this is like it gives you versatility because I can now replace the camera on this really easily. I can just be like,
as new cameras become cheaper.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the core of the system is really where all the cost is.
Right.
Because, you got, say, $5 for an SD, $9 with shipping, $9.50 with shipping for the Pi Zero. The cable's a couple bucks because you got to get the right adapter cable for it to work. That was weird. You got to get the Ethernet adapter. You got to get the PoE adapter if you do PoE, or a power supply if you do power supply. You got to get the IR lights. So the camera is really like the least of the easiest thing to upgrade on this. And that was the other thing that I liked about this is like, well, shoot, if I want to put an 8 megapixel camera on it, I could. And you did. But you have limitations on yours because it's brand new on the market. They haven't made adapters for it yet. So, yeah.
Make your own adapter, Alan. What's that? Make your own adapter.
I'm looking for some. They changed the format of where the holes are on the new cameras. That's 8 megapixel camera, so the adapter for the lens doesn't fit, and even those IR lights don't fit. So that's the 8 megapixel one right there.
Yeah.
Well, like Josh said, 5 is more than.
Oh, more than, yeah,
It's
more
solid
than,
3.
yeah. Yeah, 5's more than plenty, so.
You got one watch.
I did have 2 people watching. Yeah.
Who? Do you know who?
I don't know
One
who.
of them's him.
Well, no. I've got, it doesn't show yourself watching. So, it doesn't show yourself watching.
Your cell phone's out there watching.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to connect to the Wi-Fi too to do it.
Hey Steve, you can turn an old cell phone into a webcam for nothing. Just
Oh.
download the app.
Yeah,
Josh
there's
was talking about it. Works great.
there's
Yeah.
apps for that, right? But it was just more of like not devil's advocate.
Oh,
But
go
like,
for
hey,
it.
what
Yep.
if someone like
All right.
you don't want to go buy a camera?
Yeah.
It's all.
Anybody online? Thanks for watching.
Actually, I have one, and I was telling him about. I still need to figure out how to
Stay tuned next month.
That screen, I got an old cell phone, and I want to mount it up there, and I want to use it. I want to use the camera for Octoprint and use
I want to see when the next pet night is.
control for the 3D printer.
Right, you use IP webcam, you get access to that video stream and everything you want.
Yeah, so I have two
Exercise these
phones.
things.
What?
Phones, one of which, so I play
I think it's a quarter or a
Two other
third.
ones, I mean, one's got
Oh,
a-
the
See,
after
the
side.
CCD.
That's the.
It's
Sorry.
Basically, yeah.
They make all. That's a pretty standard size lens format for the lens adapter there. So there's all sorts of lenses like that. Yeah, the lens screws. Yeah, the lens. That whole lens screws off. At least on the ones I've seen.
Everybody online, stay tuned next month, February 6th, for the next pet night. Thanks for watching.
I know it's not. And I'm not. It was more so. I've seen